No, audible.
Hi, Krishna Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Please say at part humble obeisances.
I'm not able to hear all of it.
Your voice is.
Can someone speak now?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji,
I'm
I
still
think.
not audible.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll try with headphone if it works. First, we'll continue with this video.
Prabhuji, I think you are speaking something, but we are not able to hear.
I think now I'm able to do this, although I'm not able to hear them. So what I'll do is, I'll continue like this only because I have to show the PPT also. Other option was there with me that I can run through mobile, but in that case, someone else has to display the PPT. So what?
Prabhuji, your voice is also not clear.
So somebody can send me in chat box their email ID. I'll send them the files. And you can also type the verse number, chapter number, verse number, which was supposed to be discussed. So voice is also not clear. So what was the- I just copied and pasted. To go. I'll just see why. When I join through mobile also, then maybe I'll be able to display both. I'm just trying. Hare Krishna. Am I audible from here?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Will you do like Prabhuji? Will you show the PPTs from your laptop and you will
Yeah.
speak from mobile? Is it so?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to do this. So we were in third chapter.
Yeah, third chapter, Canto 3, chapter 4, verse number 14. You have to do today. Continue with
3, 4,
verse.
14.
Yes, 3, 4, 14.
So we'll start with the prayer. Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shudvadi Paschat Desatarane Vancha Kalpatarubhasa Kripa Sindhubhe Evicha Patitanam Pavane Bhiho Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So kindly forgive me, actually there's a lot of trouble with my laptop. So anyway, we got some solution now. So somebody can read.
Prabhuji, your voice is little low.
Low?
Can it be little increase? Voice is clear, but its sound is low.
Now I think it should be better. It's still low.
Voice is low, Prabhuji.
So just a minute.
Ganga Shakti Mataji, is it okay to you?
Yes, it seems fine, Mataji.
Okay, fine.
It's okay.
Okay. But still, I'll make some arrangement to make it more loud.
Yes, it's clear, Prabhuji. It's clear now.
I think now my voice will be more clear.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare. Okay, so we'll start with text 14. Somebody will read text 14 translation.
Text 14 translation. Uddhava said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears and the hairs on my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this.
Yeah. So now Uddhavji is speaking about his interaction with Krishna. That how when Lord addressed, then I just got tears of ecstasy. And then further he continues. Koini isate pad saroj bhajam.
Koini ishate pukhod bhaj bhajam.
Sudurlabho arte suchatursi apiha.
Sudurlabho artheshu chathesha piha. Oh, so sorry.
Tathapi naham pravanomi bhuman. Bhavat padam bhoj jane swanotsukaha. Okay. So please read the translation purport.
O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. per birth. Those who are associated with the Lord in the Vaikuntha planets achieve all the bodily features of the Lord and appear to be the same as Lord Vishnu. Such liberation is called Sarupya Mukti, which is one of the 5 kinds of liberation. The devotees engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord never accept the Sayujya Mukti, or merging in the rays of the Lord called the Brahma Jyoti. The devotees can achieve not only liberation, but any success in the realm of religiosity, economic development, or sense gratification up to the standard of the demigods in the heavenly planets. But such a pure devotee as Uddhav refuses to accept all such facilities. A pure devotee wants simply to engage in the service of the Lord and does not consider his own personal benefit.
So as far as devotee is concerned, he doesn't worry about dharma, artha, kam and moksha. He can get all the results very easily. So in the last verse of 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna speaks that my devotee is not bereft of any results coming from karma yoga, jnana yoga, sankhya yoga, this and that, anything. So many times we are not convinced about it, then what happens is devotees start doing so many other things apart from pure devotion service also. So we have seen sometimes in our devotee community also that now currently this Savan month is going on. So still devotees go to Lord Shiva temple and they go and worship Lord Shiva. Now suddenly worship Lord Shiva is not condemned, but worshipping Lord Shiva like a demigod is condemned, not like Acharya, because he's a Acharya of a Rudra Sampradaya. But the point is that still those tendencies or those misconceptions are there, that there is something which Lord Shiva can give, Krishna cannot give. Then what happens is devotees also get attracted to worship so many of the demigods with a desire to get some material benefits. But as far as devotee is concerned, what to say of dharma, artha, kam, even those who are considered very superior in the Vedic varnashram, the sannyasis, they aspire for moksha, sarupa mukti. Devotees even don't desire that. What to say of desiring for sarupa mukti? Devotees don't want other 4 kinds of mukti is also provided. Seva is not there. Saloka sasti samipya sarupe kamaputa diyamanam nagananti vinamat sevanam jana. So vinamat sevanam jana. If devotees don't get opportunity to serve, they won't like to even accept sarupa, samipya, sasti or salokya. All these 4 types of muktis. Because devotees want only service. And that is why in this particular verse also, Uddhavji says, I prepared only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. That's all. If I'm getting service to Krishna and his devotees, that is perfection of life. So devotees don't want anything else. So he speaks the same thing here, Uddhav. Okay, so this is like very famous verse. You can repeat after me. Karmanyani hasya bhavo bhavasya te.
Karmaniya nihasya bhavo bhavasyate.
Durga sayo thari bhayat palayanam.
Durga shrayo athari bhayat palayanam.
Kalatmano yat pramada yutasramaha.
Kalatmano yat pramada ayut ashramaha.
Swatman rate khityati dhir vidam eha.
Swatmannate khidyati dhira vidamiha.
O my Lord, even the great sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in the fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, and that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy the householder life surrounded by many women although you enjoy in yourself. Purport. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regards to transcendental knowledge of the Lord, nor it is possible to inquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Thus, this gives them transcendental bliss. But some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory even to such pure devotees, and thus Uddhava asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and it is actually so because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory then to hear the Lord personally lifts the Govardhan hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is supreme Brahman, absolute truth, the personality of Godhead appearing like a man. But Uddhava had doubts whether he could whether he could have so many transcendental activities. There is no difference between personality of Godhead and impersonal Brahman. How they can how they can the Lord have so many things to do, whereas impersonal Brahman is stated to have nothing to do either material or spiritually. If the Lord is unborn, how then he is born as a son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasan and takes takes shelter in the fort. How can one who is full in himself take pleasure in association of many women? How he can take wives and just like a householder and take pleasure in the association of family members, children's, relatives, and parents. All these apparently contradictory happening bewilders even the greatest scholars, who thus bewildered cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only limitations. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with the anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental, and this cannot be understood by mundane speculator. For the mundane speculator, there is certain kind of bewilderment. But for the transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the absolute truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities, but Parbrahm conception is full of with the transcendental activities. One who knows this distinction between conception of Brahman and conception of Supreme Brahman is certainly real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such transcendentalist. The Lord himself also declares in Bhagavad Gita 10.2, even the great sages and demigods can hardly know me anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. So the right explanation of the Lord activities is given in by Bhishma Dev, Bhagavatam 1.9.16 as follows: Na hi ayya
नहि यस्य करः चित्राजन् पुमान् वेद विदित्सितं यद् विजिज्ञासया युक्ता मुह्यन्ति कवयोऽपि. Thank you. So this about basically words about bewilderment. नहीं यस्य करः चित्राजन् पुमान् वेद विदित्सितं यद् विजिज्ञासया युक्ता मुह्यन्ति कवयोऽपि. But even the kavis, those who are very intelligent people, they have become bewildered by Krishna's pastimes. So that's why what you should do, just follow the instructions. And Uddhav is talking about the bewilderment in this particular verse. Karmani anihasya bhavo avasate. So karmani anihasya means Lord has nothing to do, but still he sometimes even seems to perform the karma kand activities. So that is the reason we have to take shelter of devotees to practice devotion service. Just by doing things on our own, we can't understand Krishna. So we find in North India especially, so many people are bewildered about position of Lord Ram. And that is why even after reading books like Ramcharitmanas, sometimes people they worship Lord Shiva only. And the whole reason is that Lord Ram worshipped Lord Shiva. Similarly, Krishna in Dwarka, so somehow it is not very much highlighted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, would sometimes seem to engage in karma kanda activities just to show the world what is an ideal grahastha. Ideal grahastha, but is not a devotee. So karmani anise, bhava vyavasite, Lord is unborn, but it seems to be born from Vasudeva and Devaki. Durga sarayo athari bhayat palayanam. And he took shelter of a moat, city in form of a moat. It's like between the ocean. Dwarka was there. So that no enemies would come and attack him. And he's time personified and still flees away from the enemies. He's self-controlled, self-satisfied, still he takes shelter of so many women. So seeing that, Uddhava says that I become bewildered. And that is the reason when sometimes our devotees become very morose by saying that no, Prabhu, this fellow is not understanding Krishna, that fellow is speaking ill about Krishna. Even great devotees are bewildered about activities of Krishna, what to say of outsiders. Outsiders will be certainly bewildered about Krishna. That's why in certain religions, one of the very famous religion, they blaspheme Krishna like anything. We are talking about Jains. Jains blaspheme Krishna like anything. And the reason is they all are bewildered. Because just by one's activities, one can't, or by one's austerities, one cannot understand Krishna. Krishna can be understood only through bhakti, process of bhakti. So this purport reveals that. Yeah, please read 17th and 18th translation.
O my Lord, your eternal self is never divided by the influence of time, and there is no limitation to your perfect knowledge. Thus you were sufficiently able to consult with yourself, yet you called upon me for consultation, as if bewildered, although you are never bewildered, and this act of yours bewilders me.
Please read 18th also.
My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji.
So then Uddhava starts speaking to Krishna that, my dear Lord, your knowledge is perfect. Despite that, you would consult me for different decisions as if you are unaware, you are bewildered. Like when two letters came simultaneously, one letter came from the kings imprisoned by Jarasandha. So they said that, my dear Lord, this fellow is going to sacrifice us on the altar of Kal Bhairav. Please save our lives. At the same time, a letter came from Yudhishthira Maharaj saying that, my dear Lord, we have to do Rasi Yagya, please come here. So all the Yadavas said, hell with Rasi Yagya, we will go and fight, because they were very eager to fight. They're Kshatriyas. But Krishna was bewildered. Krishna said that, no, but Yudhishthira is also my dear friend, as well as he's the emperor of the world. So then what to do? So then Uddhava suggested, my dear Lord, you can do both the things. You go to Rashtriya sacrifice, and in order to perform Rashtriya sacrifice, one is supposed to conquer the world. So you don't have to directly kill Jarasandha. You can get him killed by the agency of Bhim. Krishna said, very good idea. I never thought about it. And Uddhava becomes bewildered. That you are saying, I never thought about it. Before a thought comes in the mind of a jiva, Paramatma knows it. So then how can you say that you don't know about it? So in this way, he talks about his bewilderment. So he says, that's why, my dear Lord, I know that you are the most intelligent person in the creation. So now I want to hear from you. Please speak the knowledge. Please speak the same knowledge which you gave to Brahma. Now, please read 19th translation and purport.
Text 19, translation. When I thus expressed my heartfelt desires unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about his transcendental situation. Purport. The words Parmam Sthitam are significant in this verse. The Lord's transcendental situation was not even spoken of to Brahma when the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.33 to 2.936 were explained. This transcendental situation comprises his dealings with devotees engaged in transcendental living service as exhibited at Dwarka and Vrindavan. When the Lord explained the specific transcendental situation, it was meant for Uddhava only, and therefore Uddhava particularly said, Mayam, unto me. Although the great sage Maitreya was also sitting there. Such a transcendental situation is hardly understood by those whose devotion is mixed with speculative knowledge or fruitive activities. The Lord's activities in confidential love are very rarely disclosed to the general devotees who are attracted by devotion mixed with knowledge and mysticism. Such activities are the inconceivable pastimes of the Lord.
So, Lord is now going to explain this knowledge, but it is meant for Uddhav only, although Maitreya was also there nearby. And the reason given is that if somebody is practicing Misra Bhakti, Bhakti mixed with karma and Gyan, etc., such a person can't understand Lord's confidential activities. It is only for the people who are very much connected to the Lord, or who really love the Lord, with and worship the Lord by pure devotional service. Only they can understand. So Uddhava can understand, but Maitreya can't understand. Now, please read 20, 21, 22 translations.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, Radha.
Here, Brahmaji is also excluded, that Brahmaji was also not explained. Whereas in 4 Shloki Bhagavatam, everything is explained. Can you please clarify?
Okay. In Chatusloki Bhagavatam, knowledge about Lord relationship with his world is explained. But in Chatusloki Bhagavatam also, Lord's activities in the spiritual world are not explained. So we have verses like now, Riti Artham Yat Pritiyeta Na Pritiyeta Atmane Kad Vidyat Atmanamayam Yatha Bhasyaratama. That anything which is valuable in this world has connection with me, otherwise it is Maya. So that's more of a knowledge of Lord's presence to be felt in this world. But the details of Lord's pastimes in the spiritual world, they are not revealed in the Chatusloki Bhagavatam. So that is how things are a bit different. They are not same. And that is the reason so many great personalities, including Narad Muni, Vyasadeva himself, they were sitting in the assembly where Sukadeva Goswami was speaking. Because Sukadeva Goswami's explanations about Bhagavatam are filled with nectarine pastimes of the Lord, which are revealed. And because he is the parrot of Radharani, he knows all those pastimes. Radha Keshapu, does it answer your question?
Prabhuji, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, Rukmini Hariswani Mataji.
Where has mentioned that Shukdev Goswami is Radharani in the Bhagavatam?
Okay, Bhagavatam it is not mentioned anywhere. And about Sukadeva Goswami, the elaborate pastime is given in Brahma Vaibhava, the Puran. And some of the purports Prabhupada has quoted from Brahma Vaibhava, the Puran, the pastime of Sukadeva Goswami. There's something which is
Okay.
not there in Bhagavatam, but it is well-known fact because it has come from different Puranas. And that is the reason devotees quote that.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Please read 20 to 22.
Hare Krishna. Text 20 translation. I have studied the path of understanding self-knowledge from my spiritual master, the personality of Godhead. And thus, after circumambulating him, I have come to this place, very much aggrieved due to separation. Text 21. My dear Vidura, now I am made for want of the pleasure of seeing him, and just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrika Ashrama in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him. Text 22. There is Badrika Ashrama, the personality of Godhead, and his incarnation as the sages Nara and Narayana has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities.
Thank you. So then he's heard the knowledge from the Lord in the form of Uddhav Gita. It's a masterpiece of knowledge. There's no knowledge beyond it. Somehow Prabhupada departed from this world before giving purpose to Uddhav Gita. So unfortunately, because of that, many of the devotees also don't go through Uddhav Gita. But Uddhav Gita is really a masterpiece of knowledge. Things are given such a perfection that there's no knowledge beyond it. Like Krishna speaks very beautiful definition. I'll just give 1 or 2 examples. Like Krishna gives the example of the definition of who is rich. One who has wealth equal to his desires or more than his desires is wealthy. Simple definition. Otherwise, no, making a demarcation of who is rich and who is poor is very difficult. But one who has wealth equal to or more than his desires is rich. Who is in heaven? One who is in mode of goodness is in heaven. Even if somebody is in this world but is in mode of goodness, Satya Sanjayate Jnanam. So Sukham and Jnanam are the results of mode of goodness. Then one is in heaven. So even speaking from external point of view, our things which have definition in this world, Uddhav Gita is really a masterpiece. How to surrender to Guru, given great elaboration. So that's why one of my services which I'm doing currently is writing the parallels of Bhagavad Gita and Uddhav Gita and how Bhagavad Gita is further explained nicely in Uddhav Gita. So Uddhava in this way heard this Uddhav Gita, and then he circumambulated the Lord and left for Badrika Ashram, where Nana and Rishi are there along with all the sages. And the reason is because Lord gave darshan to everyone, but he didn't have an opportunity to meet Nana and Rishi and other sages in Badrika Ashram. And Uddhava was as intelligent as Krishna. Krishna really gave his intelligence to Uddhava. So then Krishna wanted Uddhava to go on his behalf because Lord couldn't directly meet the sages of sages of Badrika Ashram. Okay. Now Vidura is sorting for speech and knowledge from Uddhava. Please read 23, 24, and 25. And then 25 purport also.
After hearing from Uddhava all about the annihilation of his friends and relatives, the learned Vidura pacified his overwhelming bewilderment by dint of his transcendental knowledge. Text 24. While Uddhava, the chief and most confidential amongst the devotees of the Lord, was going away, Vidura in affection and confidence questioned him. Text 25. Vidura said, O Uddhava, because the servants of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord himself. Purport. The servants of the Lord are actually the servants of society. They have no interest in human society other than to enlighten it in transcendental knowledge. They are interested in imparting knowledge of the relationship of the living being with the Supreme Lord. The activities in that transcendental relationship and the ultimate goal of human life, that is the real knowledge which can help society achieve the real aim of human welfare. Knowledge in the matter of the bodily necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, and faring transform into various branches of advancement of knowledge is also temporary. A living being is not the material body, but an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Being. And thus, revival of his self-knowledge is essential. Without this knowledge, the human life is baffled. The servants of the Lord Vishnu are interested with this responsible work, and so they wander over the earth and to all other planets in the universe. Thus, the knowledge which was received by Uddhava directly from the Lord deserves to be distributed in human society, especially to persons like Vidura, who are highly advanced in the devotional service of the Lord. Real transcendental knowledge descends in the disciplic succession from the Lord to Uddhav, from Uddhav to Vidura, and so on. Such supreme transcendental knowledge is not possible to achieve by the process of imperfect speculation as performed by the so-called learned mundane wranglers. Vidura was anxious to know from Uddhav that confidential knowledge known as Paramam Sthitam, in which the Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. Also, Vidura was older than Uddhav. He was anxious to become a servant of Uddhav in the transcendental relationship. This formula of transcendental disciplic succession is taught by Lord Chaitanya also. Lord Chaitanya advises that one receive transcendental knowledge from anyone, whether a Brahman or a Shudra, a householder or a sannyasi, provided that the person is factually conversant with the science of Krishna. A person who knows the science of Krishna is factually a bona fide spiritual master.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is emphasizing on accepting transcendental knowledge from whoever we get. Kiva vipra keva nasi sudra kanonai, yehi Krishna tattvavetha sei guru hai. So Lord Chaitanya was a sannyasi on the highest order, born Brahmana. Despite that, he accepted knowledge from Ramananda Rai, who was a grahastha, who was a politician, as well as he was a Sudra. So in this way, it doesn't matter what person's position is there in the social system. Whoever speaks about Krishna, we can hear from him or her, anyone. Similarly, we find same thing here. That although Vidura is like very, very senior in age to Uddhava, but despite that, Vidura is ready to hear from Uddhava. Because he knows that Uddhava is very dear to Krishna. Such a confidential servant of Krishna that Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan to understand the greatness of the love of the Brajavasis. Krishna would consider Uddhava as good as himself. That's why Vidura was very anxious to hear from Uddhava. Not worrying about, oh no, he's a junior in age, how can I hear from him? He didn't care about that. So that is how he was ready to connect with the disciplic knowledge succession. Was Uddhava hear from Krishna? Now Vidura wanted to hear from Uddhava. The same knowledge. Please read 26 and 27.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, only translation or purports also?
Only translate.
26. Text 26. Shri Uddhava said, you may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit his mortal, this mortal world. Text 27. Shukdev Goswami said, O king, after thus discussing with Vidura the transcendental name, fame, qualities, etc. on the bank of Jamuna, Uddhava was overwhelmed with the great affliction. He passed the nights as if it were a moment, and thereafter he went away. Thank you.
Even it 26 purport. 26 purport. Main
Purport
node is
of
from here.
26.
You have in your you have Bhagavatam there?
Yeah.
Then you can just read from the purport 26.
Purport of 26 text. Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of Maryada Vyatikrama, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of Maryada Vyatikrama, because by so doing one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitre Rishi to receive transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitre was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well versed. So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitre, another elderly person, but he was well versed, also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitre were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else. But Maitre, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerates the impertinence of Maryada Vyatikrama. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interests of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of the pseudo-spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. Thank you.
So Prabhupada writes the reason why Uddhava didn't speak to Maitre Muni, although he had directly heard from Krishna. Because Maitre Muni is elderly to Uddhava. Maitre Muni is friend of Vyasadeva. And Maitre Muni was also there, who had heard the same knowledge with Krishna to Uddhava. And as far as Vidura was concerned, Vidura was elderly to him in age. So that's why, although anybody who is well versed about the knowledge of Krishna consciousness can speak, but if there is an alternate of having a more realized or more elderly person, it's better that an elderly and a realized person speaks. So devotees also get some bewilderment like that. So now I wanted to check with all of you. Let us say if you are giving a Bhagavatam class in the temple, and suppose some very senior devotee comes there, maybe your Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru or any other Prabhupada disciple comes there, then what will you do? Okay, Rukmani Mataji.
If a situation is like a person and any devotee is giving Bhagavatam and sitting on the Vyasasana, so it's not necessary he should stand up, but for sure he would, sitting on the Vyasasana, he would pay the obeisance, and on the mic only he would say like that, "We welcome you, Prabhuji," or something like this. So of course I know that pastime of Rome Harshan, but there is no, I asked this question earlier in the Bhagavatam session. So this is what can be done.
Good answer. Okay, anyways, we give the complete answer. So actually speaking, if we are not in temple hall, we are at other place, we should get up and pay obeisances. We generally don't pay obeisances in front of the deities. Unfortunately, what happens in India is very much unavoidable. So even in front of deities, if some senior devotees come, people have a tendency to pay obeisances. So I would remember when he was there, Bhakti Mother Govind Maharaj. So people would pay him obeisance and he would beat them with danda. Hey, you have not got NOD? Huh? You know, how can you pay obeisance in front of deities? And that is the reason many times we are not supposed to pay obeisance in front of the deities. But if some very senior devotees are there, I have personally done that we can get up from even Vyasasana and we can request them that Maharaj or Prabhuji, you can come and give class. And if they permit and they say, no, you continue the class, then we can just praise them and continue the class. And generally they tell to continue. They never say, oh, no, you get down from Vyasasana and come and give class. Generally they don't do like that. But we should be ready. So that's an etiquette. And really speaking, as far as Hare Krishna. Okay, so still I'm audible, so no problem. So as far as okay, fine. Another internet is not working. As far as other devotees are concerned, as far as if elderly devotees are concerned. So in general, if somebody's devotee, things are different. But many times if somebody is too elderly in age, the tendency is not there to hear very submissively. Now that's not the case with Vidura, but that happens many times. And that is why the reason which is given here, that we should not speak in front of very elderly personality, is given here. Like I remember that one person who sleeps in all my classes and who gives feedback for every class, he's my father. As soon as I give a class, he would go to sleep. And then most of the time the feedback comes is that you speak so fast that people go to sleep. And the only person sleeping in the class is my father. And the reason is age. So when somebody has such an age, somebody who has brought you up, then generally they cannot hear. They are meant to find faults. So it's like a spiritual master and a father is supposed to find faults with the son or the disciple. So he does the right thing. So he's the best person to give me feedback. No, nobody gives as much as my father gives. So that is naturally there. And that is the reason that Maryada is there. Some elderly personality is there, give him respect, allow him to speak. Unless until we are given that service to speak. The service that then things are different. We can't cross over the management and do anything. But if it is like an independence there, then we should allow the people at the higher order to speak. Okay, Daruka Krishna Prabhu, you have a question? Yes, Daruka Krishna Prabhu. You are mute too.
Hare Krishna. I remember I had seen one video where Radhesham Prabhu was giving class on Vyasasana. And there in the class, silently, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj came and he sit in the class. So Radhesham couldn't notice, but as soon as he noticed, he immediately jumped down from the Vyasasana and he was not ready to give the class in front of his guru. And then he was requesting Radhanath Maharaj to give class, but Radhanath Maharaj saying that you give. So till the time he was sitting in the class, Radhanath Maharaj, he was not on the Vyasasana. So then Maharaj thought to let's go from the class. So when he went out from the class, then only the Radhesham Prabhu got ready to give the class, continue the class. So I was thinking that at least in front of the Guru, Guru should be given chance, or should at least generally he gives permission to go and speak. And otherwise, for senior devotees, we could ask, take permission, so, Prabhuji, you can come and give class. And at least etiquette wise also, we should not speak or we should not show that we know much in front of Guru, at least from whom we are learning everything by the blessings of him. Is this right understanding, Prabhuji?
Yeah. See, sometimes we may not have to go and sit in the ground as such. And it's like, no. So we find that when Prabhupada would ask his disciple to speak many times and Prabhupada would sit in the class, disciples would sit and speak. So
yes, their permission is there.
So if instruction is there by spiritual master, we have to follow. But if he doesn't instruct, then the general indicator, we should not be eager to speak. That is the main thing. My spiritual master wants you to speak, then with a mood of service to him, that no, he wants to maybe test my knowledge, test my intelligence, so then we may sit and speak. But generally, we should not be eager to show our philosophy and knowledge in front of the master. So that's there. So whatever he instructs, we should do.
Yes, right.
Thank you. But a good example. Yes, Amaran Haritu, you also had some comment.
Once Prabhuji Maharaj Prabhuji was giving us Brahmachari class in Answer in Rohan, and suddenly with Mani Krishna Prabhuji came in the class. So suddenly he stood up from the Vyasa and he asked Prabhuji that please use his class here. So Prabhuji, I told him that no, I will give some comment on your class, but you please continue. So he continued. So I have seen that part that
Yeah. So in general, actually, senior devotees, they allow or they instruct only to continue, because the main reason is they respect the management. So whatever managerially is, this is there, whoever is allocated for the class, then is it. But good example how to do it. Thank you. Okay, so now the internet is not working at all. I think that's the one problem. They help us now. But devotees have their own books. So somebody can read 28th, 29th translation, 20th translation, 29th translation purport.
28 translation.
Yeah, and 29th translation and purport both.
Okay. The king inquired, at the end of the pastime of the Lord of the three worlds, Shri Krishna, and after the disappearance of the members of the Vrishni and Bhoj dynasties, who were the best of the great commanders, why did Uddhava alone remain? Prabhuji, purport also?
No, next one, translation purport. Next was translation purport.
29. Shudri Goswami replied, my dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows. A purport as well now?
Yeah.
In this verse, the word Tyakshan is very significant in relation to the Lord Shri Krishna leaving his body. Since he is the eternal form of existence, knowledge and bliss, his body and his self are identical. Therefore, how is it possible that he would leave his body and then disappear from the vision of the world? There is a great controversy amongst the non-devotees or Mayavadis about the mysterious disappearance of the Lord, and the doubts about those men with a poor fund of knowledge have been very elaborately cleared by Sri Shilaji Goswami in his Krishna Sundar. According to Brahm Samhita, the Lord has many forms. It is stated therein that the Lord has innumerable forms, and when he appears within the vision of the living entities, as Lord Krishna actually appeared, all such forms amalgamate with him. Beside all these infallible forms, he has his universal form as manifested before Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here in this verse, the word Safitam is used. which indicates that he left his gigantic universal form called the Virat Roop, not his primeval eternal form, because there is hardly any possibility of his changing his form of Sachit Ananda. Brahma Samhita 5.1. This simple understanding is at once realized by the devotees of the Lord, but those who are non-devotees, who perform hardly any devotional service to the Lord, either don't understand this simple fact or purposely raise a controversy to defeat the eternity of the transcendental body of the Lord. This is due to the defect called the cheating propensity of the imperfect living entities. By practical experience also, it is seen up to the present day that the Lord's transcendental form is worshipped by devotees in different temples. And all the devotees of the Lord factually realize that the form of the deity in the temple is no different from the form of the Lord. This inconceivable performance of the internal potency of the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yog Maya Samavrita. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. In the Padam Puran, it is said, Atash Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet graham indriya, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 17.136. The name and the form of the Lord cannot be perceived by the material senses. But when he appears within the vision of the mundane people, he assumes the form of Virat Roop. This is an additional material exhibition of form and is supported by the logic of a subject and its objectives. In grammar, when an adjective is taken away from the subject it modifies doesn't change. Similarly, when the Lord quits his Virat Roop, his eternal form doesn't change. Although there is no material difference between himself and any one of his innumerable forms. In the fifth canto, it will be seen how the Lord is worshipped in different planets in his different forms, even now, and how he is worshipped in different temples of this earth also. Srila Ji Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have very elaborately explained this incident of Lord's disappearance in their commentaries, quoting various authentic versions of the Vedic literatures. We purposely don't include them all here to avoid an increase in the volume of this book. The entire matter is explained in the Bhagavad Gita as quoted above. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. He always keeps himself out of the vision of the non-devotees who are devoid of love and devotion, and thus he puts them still further away from the Lord. The Lord appeared on the invitation of Brahma, who prayed before the Kshirodakshai Vishnu, and therefore when the Lord appeared, all the form of Vishnu amalgamated with him. And when the mission was fulfilled, all of them separated from him in the usual course. Thank you.
So Prabhupada talks about necessity of being a devotee if we want to really understand Krishna. And now 32 we'll learn the reason why Krishna sent Uddhava to Badrikashram. So please read 30, 31, 32 translation.
Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. 31. Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. 32. Shukdev Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badrika Ashram and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord.
So why Lord didn't send Uddhava? Why Uddhava didn't go back to Godhead along with Krishna? So he had the great work of disseminating the same knowledge which Krishna wanted to give to the sages of Badrika Ashram. So Uddhava went there, gave them the message of Krishna, and then he is like now in trance, just being absorbed in Krishna. Now there is description about Vidura's enlightenment. Yeah. So please read 33, 34, 35 and 36 also, all four.
Text 33. Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna, the supersoul in the mortal world, which is a subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages. Text 34. The Lord's glorious acts and his acceptance of various transcendental forms for the performance of extraordinary pastimes in the mortal world are very difficult for anyone other than his devotees to understand, and for the beasts they are simply a mental disturbance. Text 35. Understanding that he was remembered by Lord Krishna while quitting this world, Vidura began to cry loudly, overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love. Text 36. After passing a few days on the bank of river Yamuna, Vidura, the self-realized soul, reached the banks of the Ganges, where the great sage Maitreya was situated.
So it's a conversation between Uddhava and Vidura, and after knowing that Krishna wanted Uddhava to enlighten Vidura, and that is why he also arranged for Maitreya to come there so that Vidura can get that knowledge. Vidura was in tears. And even while leaving this planet, there are unlimited number of devotees Krishna has, still he remembered me. And what to say of Vidura? Krishna is personal with each and every devotee. And that is why Vidura went in tears. And as instructed by Uddhava, now he is going to approach Maitreya Muni to get that same knowledge which Krishna gave to Uddhava. So that we'll discuss after 15 minutes. So we'll start with chapter number 5 after 15 minutes. And Rukmini Mata, you have na this? Yeah, Hare Krishna. So we'll start with chapter number 5 after 15 minutes. So 11:30 will come back. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Yes, sir. Rukmani Mataji, can you display the next chapter?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So next chapter is Vidura talks with Maitreya. And first 9 verses, Vidura's questions to Maitreya Rishi are explained. Then verse number 10 to 16 explains or describes about Vidura's exclusive interest in hearing Krishna Katha. She said, I've heard about so many high and lower topics, now I'm tired. I want to hear this Krishna Katha. And then Maitreya Rishi, honored by Vidura, expresses gratitude for an opportunity to speak Krishna Katha. And then 20 to 38, there is a Maitreya Rishi describes about the primary creation, basically. It's called Sarga. And at the end, there is a prayers by the elemental demigods or the Tattva Devatas. So there is. So we'll start with verse number 1. Please read text 1, translation.
Shukdev Goswami said, Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the source of the celestial Ganges river, Hardwar, where Maitreya, the great, fathomless, learned sage of the world, was seated. Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him.
So now Vidura, he went from Vrindavan to Haridwar, where Maitreya Rishi was there. And the qualities of Vidura, who was inquiring from Maitreya Muni, is described here. What is that? He had the qualities like gentleness. So he knew the proper behavior of approaching the teaching master. And he was satisfied in transcendence. That means he was not going to inquire anything about gross or subtle qualities. That means sense gratification. He was just going to speak here about Krishna. Now, this text is very famous and worthwhile memorizing. So devotees can repeat after. Vidura vacha Sukhaya karmani karoti loko Vindete bhuyastad eva dukkham Yadatra yuktam bhagavan vadennaha. This is the translation and the purport.
Vidura said, O great sage, everyone in this world engages in fruitive activities to attain happiness, but one finds neither satiation or negation of distress. On contrary, one is only aggravated by such activities. Please therefore give us direction on how one should live for real happiness. Purport. Vidura asked Maitreya some common questions which was not originally his intentions. Uddhava asked Vidura to approach Maitreya Muni and to inquire into all the truths concerning the Lord, his name, fame, quality, form, pastime, and entourage, etc. And thus, when Vidura approached Maitreya, he should have asked only about the Lord. But out of his natural humility, he did not immediately ask about the Lord, but he inquired into subject which would be a great importance to a common man. A common man cannot understand the Lord. First, he must first know the real position of his life under the influence of illusory energy. In illusion, one thinks that he can be happy only by fruitive activities, but actually happens is that one becomes more and more entangled in the network of action and reaction and does not find any solution to the problem of life. There is nice song in this connection because of a great desire to have all happiness in life. I built this house, but unfortunately, the whole scheme has turned to ashes because the house was un- unexpectedly set on fire. The law of nature is like that. Everyone tries to be happy by planning in material world, but law of nature is so cruel that it sets the fire to one's schemes, and the fruity worker is not happy in his schemes, nor there is any happiness or satisfaction of his continuous hankering for happiness.
So now Vidura was thinking that as he had heard before, that although Mitra was also standing nearby Uddhava, Krishna smiled at Uddhava and spoke the knowledge to Uddhava. So now Vidura didn't want to ask Maitreya Muni directly, that please give me the knowledge or tell me what Krishna spoke to Uddhava. So whether Maitreya was willing to speak that, whether Maitreya have really understood what Krishna spoke, and whether he was ready to share that with Vidura, he was not very sure. And that is the reason he asked indirectly. He said that let me ask my own questions. And if Maitreya had really heard of that knowledge, he would certainly share that knowledge with me. And that is the reason he directly didn't ask about Krishna. Just starts asking about some basic questions which everybody has. So what is the basic question? Sukhai karmani karoti loko. So in this world, people work very hard for sukha, for getting some pleasure. But nate sukham vane to paramamba. What happens is instead of getting pleasure in this world, they get displeasure and they're entangled in displeasure. How? Like for example, just to get some financial security, people accumulate a lot of wealth and a lot of property in this world. But then what happens is, when we get some property, we have to protect that property also. So I personally know about my own father. Now he's a very good devotee, initiated devotee, practicing since many years. But then so much struggle with property. Now he's also retired. So as soon as he was thinking, when he was doing job, he was thinking the day I'll get retired, immediately I'll pack my luggage and I go to temple and serve Krishna there. But then as soon as he got retired, somebody filed some case in our property. And it's totally illegal. It's very clear that he doesn't have any paper fully on with us. But despite that, because he filed the case, now he has to go to advocate here, there are so many places. Another other property was 3 friends purchased together. That division is going on. Again, he has to get involved in all those things. So then he was feeling that, no, I'm so entangled. So for financial security, person collects money, person accumulates land, etc. But then same thing become the cause of one's distress. Because after constructing something, you have to maintain it also. Maintenance is also required. So in this world, people work very hard to secure wealth so that they can be happy later on. But on contrary, what happens is Same wealth needs maintenance and one has to work more harder. So there is a distress. Prabhupada gives a very beautiful example in some of his purpose of a house. We don't get house free of cost. One has to accumulate wealth. For that, one has to work hard. Again, one wants to save money and see whether the materials are proper. Then one has to get constructed himself. Otherwise, one has to pay very high price if he wants to rely on some reliable civil engineer, etc. And then that's not the end. One has to maintain it. One has to maintain the house also. And for a whole day of work, how much pleasure does person gets in the house? Only when he comes in the evening and in the morning time. Whole day is for work. And night time, whenever you sleep, it is same. We are in some other world. So practically speaking, for very less time. So that is how one accumulates wealth, accumulates properties for getting pleasure in this world. But same thing becomes the cause of one's displeasure. That's why he's asking, what is the remedy? What is the remedy? And then he says that personalities like you live for giving the remedy. So that is explained in this particular verse. So there was a very famous verse, worthwhile memorizing. You can repeat after me. Janasya Krishna Tavimukhasya Devad Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. Please read translation as well as purport. Translation then purport.
O my Lord, wretched tropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are adverse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. To be obedient to the wishes of the Supreme Lord is the natural position of every living entity. But due only to past misdeeds, a living being become adverse to the sense of subordination to the Lord and suffers all the miseries of material existence. No one has anything to do but render devotional service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Therefore, any activity other than transcendental loving service to the Lord is more or less a rebellious action against the Supreme Will. All fruitive activity, empirical philosophy, and mysticism are more or less against the sense of subordination to the Lord, and any living entity engaged in such rebellious activities is more or less condemned by the laws of material nature, which work under the subordination of the Lord. Great unalloyed devotee of the Lord are compassionate towards the fallen, and therefore they travel all over the world with the mission of bringing soul back to Godhead, back to home. Such pure devotees of the Lord carry the message of Godhead in order to deliver the fallen soul, and therefore the common man who is bewildered by the influence of the external energy of the Lord should avail himself of their association.
Thank you. So, in this verse, it has that personalities are like you. You appear for this purpose. Says Janasya Krishnat Vimukhasya. So, in general, people who are Krishna Vimukh, who turn their faces away from Krishna, why? Devad. Due to some reason, some reason which is unknown. And what people do? Adharma silasya. They engage in sinful activity. And what is the result? Sudukhitasya. They suffer like anything. But anugrahaye charanti nunam. Personalities like you to do anugrah, to bestow mercy on others, what do? You move around the world. Charanti. Bhutani bhavani janardhanasya. Because Jan Ardhan, Krishna is also called Jan Ardhan, one who destroys the suffering of people. So you know the solution, and you travel the world to reveal this truth to everyone, that the solution is only in the practice of Krishna consciousness. So that's why I want to hear from you. Yeah. Please read a fourth translation, text 4 translation.
Therefore, O great sage, please give me instruction on the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, so that he, who is situated in the heart of everyone, can be pleased to impart from within knowledge of the absolute truth in terms of the ancient Vedic principles, delivered only to those who are purified by the process of devotional service.
Yeah. So bhakti is the solution for all the sufferings of the people in the world. That's why please give me bhakti, which purifies the heart and removes the root of suffering, and that is ignorance. Ignorance is the root of suffering. That's why many times people are bewildered if they see that, materially speaking, even for devotees, sometimes sufferings are not destroyed, rather they increase. So bhakti doesn't destroy suffering, it removes or destroys the root of suffering itself. And when the root of the suffering is destroyed, everything is automatically destroyed. So bhakti doesn't just cuts off the branches and the twigs and the leaves, etc. Because even if you cut them, they will grow again. Bhakti uproots the root itself. And when root is destroyed, it may seem for some time that branches, twigs, leaves are as they are, but they gradually dry up. They gradually dry up. Similarly, for devotees also, it seems sometimes prarabdha karmas are not destroyed because they are the last one to get destroyed, the manifested sinful reactions. But they gradually vanish because the root itself is destroyed. Like if somebody may see in the life of a Narad Muni, Narada boy. So from childhood there were sufferings. Born to a maid servant who had no other shelter. Narad Muni never met his father, or he was not aware of the father. And then after meeting Bhakti Vedantas, it is not like Narada boy's suffering reduced from external point of view. 4 months they stayed, he served them. What was the result? The only shelter of a 5-year-old boy, mother, was bitten by a serpent. Somebody say, Arey, what is the use of no serving the sadhus? But Narada, because his root of suffering was destroyed, that is avidya, he took it as blessings of the Lord. Very nice, My last snare of attachment is destroyed now. Now I am free to follow the instructions of these Bhakti Vedantas. So immediately he left the house for going to the north and he started doing tapasya. And what was the result? At the end of the life, he again appeared as perfected soul Narad Muni. Same thing with Pandavas. Actually speaking, so many sufferings. From childhood, it's like practically speaking, suffering after suffering. But then, they were in bliss because they had perfection of life. They had audience of Krishna. So that is how, please tell me about Bhakti. Bhakti gives the original knowledge, and if one knows Bhakti, one can easily know all Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. And that is why Vidura is considered to be the ideal student who is inquiring about absolute truth. Yes, please go to the next verse.
Text 4. Therefore, O great sage, can I?
You're reading text 5 now, Prabhuji?
Text 4. Text 5 or 4?
Text 5 and 6 we have to read. 5
Text
and 6 we have to read. No?
Ah, 5 and 6.
O great says, kindly narrate how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the independent, desireless Lord of the three worlds and the controller of all energies, accepts incarnations and creates the cosmic manifestation with perfectly arranged regulative principles for its maintenance. Should I read the purport also?
No. And not purport, only translations of 5 and 6. Matai, are you scrolling it down? Somehow it is not visible to me. Maybe it's visible to other devotees.
No, it's not visible, Prabhuji.
Okay. Harisim, you can try. Maybe you can disconnect and connect again. Maybe sharing. Then it may be visible.
Is this visible now?
It is coming up. Yeah, now it is visible. Just 5th and 6th is done. Then we'll go to 7th. 6th is done, na? Yeah.
No, 6 Prabhuji will read, na?
Prabhuji will read. Please read 6th also, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
He lies down on his own heart, spread in the form of the sky, and thus placing the whole creation in that space. He expands himself into many living entities, which are manifested as different species of life. He does not have to endeavor for his maintenance, because he is the master of mystic powers and the proprietor of everything. Thus, he is distinct from the living entities.
Yeah. So please describe about Mahavishnu, how he creates, maintains, and destroys this world. So, fine, you can describe Govardhan Leela, but we also want to hear about Lord's dealing with this material world, Mahavishnu. So, how he maintains this world, how he creates this world, please describe about it. And how he sleeps in the Vraja river and then enters in the universe as Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So please explain about that also. And then text number 7, you can repeat after me. Kridan vidatte dvijego suranam Chemaya karmani avatar bhede Mano pitripyati api srinvatamna Susloka maulis saritamritani. Please read translation and the purport.
Hare Krishna. You may narrate also about the auspicious characteristics of the Lord and his different incarnations for the welfare of the twice born, the cows and the demigods. Our minds are never satisfied completely, although we continuously hear of his transcendental activities. Purport. The Lord appears in this universe in different incarnations like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, and Nrisimha, and he manifests his different transcendental activities for the welfare of the twice born, the cows, and the demigods. The Lord is directly concerned with the twice born or civilized man. A civilized man is one who has taken his birth twice. A living entity takes birth in this mundane world due to the union of male and female. A human being is born due to union of the father and mother, but a civilized human being has another birth by contact with his spiritual master, who becomes the actual father. The father and mother of the material body are so only in one birth, and in the next birth, the father and mother may be a different couple. But the bona fide spiritual master, as the representative of the Lord, is the eternal Father, because the spiritual master has the responsibility to lead the disciples to spiritual salvation, or the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, a civilized man must be twice born, otherwise, he is no more than the lower animals. The cow is the most important animal for developing the human body to perfection. The body can be maintained by any kind of foodstuff, but cow's milk is particularly essential for developing the finer tissues of the human brain so that one can understand the intricacies of transcendental knowledge. A civilized man is expected to live on foodstuffs comprising fruits, vegetables, grains, sugar, and milk. The bull helps in the agriculture process of producing grain, etc. And thus, in one sense, the bull is the father of humankind, whereas the cow is the mother. For she supplies milk to human society. A civilized man is therefore expected to give all protection to the bulls and cows. The demigods, or the living entities who live in the higher planets, are far superior to human beings since they have better arrangements for living conditions. They live far more luxuriously than human beings. Yet they are all devotees of the Lord. The Lord incarnates in different forms. They are all in different forms, such as those of a fish, a tortoise, a hog, a combined lion and man, etc., just to give protection to civilized men. The cow and the demigod, who are directly responsible for the regulative life of progressive self-realization. The whole system of the material creation is planned so that the conditioned souls may have the opportunity for self-realization. One who takes advantage of such an arrangement is called a demigod or civilized man. The cow is meant to help maintain such a high standard of life. The Lord's pastimes for the protection of the twice born civilized men, the cows and the demigods are all transcendental. A human being is inclined to hear good narrations and stories, and therefore there are so many books, magazines, and newspapers on the market to satisfy the interest of the developed soul. But the pleasure in such literature, after it is read once, becomes stale, and people do not take any interest in reading such literature repeatedly. In fact, newspapers are read for less than an hour and then thrown in the dustbins as rubbish. The case is similar with all other mundane literatures. But the beauty of transcendental literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is that they never become old. They have been read in the world by civilized men for the last 5,000 years, and they have never become old. They are ever fresh to the learned scholars and devotees. And even by daily repetition of the verses of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no satiation for devotees like Vidura. Vidura might have heard the pastimes of the Lord many, many times before he met Maitreya, but still he wanted the same narrations to be repeated because he was never satiated by hearing them. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord's glorious pastimes.
So, in this verse, he says that please describe about Leela Avataras also. So in the previous verses, he was requesting to hear about Purusa Avataras. Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Karnodaksha Vishnu, and Sirodaksha Vishnu. And in this verse, he's requesting to hear about Leela Avataras as well as Krishna. Krishna is described here as Dvij Gosurana. That he loves Brahmanas, cows, and the demigods. Because all three of them are in mode of goodness and they work for the welfare of the society. And he says, our mind is not satisfied as much as you speak out Krishna Katha. Keep on speaking Krishna Katha. So he expresses his desire to hear Krishna Katha. Now please continue with 8th, 9th and 10th.
Text 8. The Supreme King of all kings has created different planets and places of habitation where living entities are situated in terms of the modes of nature and work, and he has created their different kings and rulers. 9. O chief amongst the Brahmanas, please also describe how Narayan, the creator of the universe and the self-sufficient Lord, has differently created the natures, activities, forms, features, and names of the different living creatures.
Thank you. And this enough. 10th will read later. So he says that please describe the how Lord of all planets produces various planets. Adi Lokanato. He creates their Lokpalas, the protector of the various elements and the planets. How he creates the world beyond Lokalok mountain, that is transcendental realm. Please describe about types of living entities, how they get their different bodies, and how they are seen according to different qualification. Because there are many living entities who are not visible to our eyes. So who can see them, who cannot see them? Please describe about how Lord does primary creation and also Brahma does a secondary creation. So Visarga Atma Yunir. So Visarga. So please speak about the secondary creation also. How Brahma creates this universe, produces different varieties of living entities with their natures, forms, names, etc. So basically this was the question about asking about Purusha Avtaras, Leela Avtaras, and secondary creation also, subsequent creation. So primary creation is called Sarga, secondary creation is called Visarga. So please explain about both of them along with Leela Avtaras. Yeah. Now, Maitra Muni may ask a question that you have already heard about Mahabharata. So why you don't want to hear about Mahabharata? And then Vidura expresses his eagerness for hearing Krishna Katha from text 10 onwards. Yeah. Please read 10th, 11th, 12th.
Oh my lord, I have repeatedly heard about these higher and lower statuses of human society from the mouth of Vyasadeva, and I am quite satiated with all these lesser subject matters and their happiness. They have not satisfied me with the nectar of topics about Krishna.
Yeah, please wait. So now what we'll do, then we'll read that verse also. So 10th is also a very important verse. So what he says is, I have heard a lot about Mahabharata. So in Mahabharata is considered very excellent book because Mahabharata talks about different levels of dharma. They are very vividly discussed and written in Mahabharata. And just because Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata, Parasar Muni said that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parasar Muni said that I was also a Vyas in last to last Chatur Yuga. So last to last Vyasadeva was Parasar Muni. Current Vyasadeva is Krishna Dvaipan Vyas. So he says that my son Krishna Dvaipan Vyas is definitely Supreme Personality of Godhead because he has written Mahabharata. So very nice description is there in Mahabharata. Like we have Kam Sastras, above Kam Sastras are Arth Sastras. Above Arth Sastras are Dharma Sastras. Above Dharma Sastras are Moksha Sastras. Above Moksha Sastras are Sastras. Moksha Sastras are also called the Gyan Sastras basically. Difference between body and soul and Brahman. Above Gyan Sastras are the Sastras which describe about Lord's dealing with his material nature or Lord's Paramatma form. How Lord creates, maintains and destroys this world. But highest are the Bhakti Sastras. So Vidura says, as far as other Sastras are concerned, I have heard them a lot. This is higher, that is lower, this and that. And Vidura himself is Yamraj. It is Yamraj's daily activity to find who is doing Punya and who is doing Pap. Yamraj is super expert in that. So he said, I don't want to hear about that. I'm sick of hearing about it. Like a fire is not satisfied by a stick of woods. So I am not satisfied with them. I want to hear the nectar of Krishna's pastime, Krishna Katha. So whatever you are going to speak, speak it with a mixture of sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. So I want to hear Krishna Katha. Yeah. And then he speaks this very famous verse number 11. This also you can repeat after me. This is really, really, really beautiful. Kastripnuya tirtha pado vidhanat satresu vasura bhiridmanat
Tatreshu vasuribbhiridyamanat
ya karna nadim purusa sayato Bhava pradam ge haratim chinnati Please read 11th translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna. Translation, who in the human society can be satisfied without hearing sufficient talk of the Lord, whose lotus feet are the sum total of all places of pilgrimage, and who is worshipped by great sages and devotees. Such topics can cut off one's bondage to family affection simply by entering the holes of one's ears. Purport. Krishna Katha is so powerful that simply by entering into a person's ear, it can at once give deliverance from the bondage of family affection. Family affection is an illusory manifestation of the external energy, and it is the only impetus for all mundane activity. As long as there is mundane activity and the mind is absorbed in such engagement, one has to undergo the repetition of birth and death. In the current material nations, people are most influenced by the mode of ignorance, and some are influenced by the passionate mode of material nature. And under the spell of these two modes, a living being is actuated by the material conception of life. The mundane qualities don't allow a living entity to understand his real position. The qualities of both ignorance and passion strongly bind one to the illusory bodily conception of the self. The best among the fools who are thus deluded are those who engage in altruistic activities under the spell of the material mode of passion. Bhagavad Gita, which is the direct Krishna Katha, gives humanity the elementary lesson that the body is perishable and that the consciousness which is spread throughout the body is imperishable. The conscious thing, the imperishable self, is eternally existent and cannot be killed under any circumstances, even after the dissolution of the body. Anyone who misunderstands this perishable body to be the self and who works for it in the name of sociology, politics, philanthropy, altruism, nationalism, or internationalism under the false plea of the bodily conception of life is certainly a fool and doesn't know the implications of reality and unreality. Some of them are above the modes of ignorance and passion and are situated in the mode of goodness. But mundane goodness is always contaminated by tinges of ignorance and passion. Mundane goodness can enlighten one that the body and the self are different. And one in goodness is concerned with the self and not the body. But due to being contaminated, those in mundane goodness cannot understand the real nature of the self as a person. Their impersonal conception of the self as distinct from the body keeps them in the mode of goodness within material nature. And unless they are attracted by Krishna Katha, they will never be liberated from the bondage of material existence. Krishna Katha is the only remedy for all people of the world because it can situate one in pure consciousness of the self and liberate one from material bondage. To preach Krishna Katha all over the world, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, is the greatest missionary activity. And all sensible man and woman of the world may join in this great movement started by Lord Chaitanya. Thank you.
Hare Hare. So, ya karna nadim purusasya yato bhava pradam gehratim chinatti. So as soon as Krishna Katha enters in the ears, it creates such a sweet taste that person's bodily conception is completely destroyed. So that's why he says kastripnuyat. How can one be satiated by hearing Krishna Katha? Now in text number 10 also you are describing that no, one cannot be satiated by material pleasures, but one cannot get satiated by material pleasures because one doesn't get any happiness. That is, any amount of material pleasures one gets, one doesn't feel I'm happy. But Krishna Katha is opposite. One gets so much of happiness that one feels that I don't want to stop hearing Krishna Katha. So that is how when somebody hears Krishna Katha, he becomes blissful and he loses taste for everything else. So that is the result of hearing Krishna Katha. Now please read 12th, text 12th translation.
Your friend, the great sage Krishnadeva Vyasa has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord. In his great work, the Mahabharata. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of the people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics.
So what he says is that Mahabharata is filled with topics of dharma, kam, but the purpose is to direct them towards Bhagavad Gita and Narayana. Basically Bhagavad Gita, which is the central theme of Mahabharata. And that is how people gradually hear Bhagavad Gita, not immediately. So whole Mahabharata is filled with politics, sociology, adventure, tragedy. That is like a big laddu inside which the medicine is kept. So if a child doesn't eat medicine directly to get cured of ignorance, then mother puts the medicine inside laddu and feeds the child. The same thing Vyasadeva has done. He has created so many adventures, and at the central point, when the Mahabharata war is just going to begin, the councils are blown, Bhagavad Gita is spoken, which is the essence of Mahabharata. But unfortunately, what happens is modern people are so expert that they remove the tablet and eat the laddu. So that is how many times even that mission also fails. So they would discuss everything about Mahabharata except the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita comes and say, oh, it's boring, go ahead. You just want to hear about Mahabharata. So he says, I want to hear about it. I want to hear Krishna Katha directly. I'm tired of hearing about higher and lower species or higher or lower topics. Now, next verse is also an important verse.
Sashardhanasya vivirdhamana
virakti anyatra karoti pumsaha
virakti maniyatra karoti punsaha
hare padano smriti nirvitasya
hare padanu smriti nivritasya
samasta dukkha payama sudatte
samastu kapyayama shudhatte. For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha gradually increases his indifference towards all other things. Such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna by the devotees who have achieved transcendental bliss vanquishes all other difficulties without delay. Purport. We must certainly know that on the absolute plane, Krishna Katha and Krishna are one and the same. The Lord is the absolute truth, and therefore his name form, quality, etc., which are all understood to be Krishna Katha, are non-different from him. Bhagavad Gita being spoken by the Lord is as good as the Lord himself. When a sincere devotee reads Bhagavad Gita, this is as good as seeing the Lord face to face in his personal presence. But this is not so far the mundane wrangler. All the potencies of the Lord are there when one reads Bhagavad Gita, provided it is read in a way recommended in the Gita by the Lord himself. One cannot foolishly manufacture an interpretation of Bhagavad Gita and still bring about transcendental benefit. Anyone who tries to squeeze some artificial meaning, if there is some disturbance, anyone who tries to squeeze some artificial meaning or
interpretation.
You can mute for the time being. Anyone who tries to squeeze some artificial meaning or interpretation from Bhagavad Gita for an ulterior motive is not Shardhana Punsa, one engaged anxiously in the bona fide hearing of Krishna Katha. Such a person cannot derive any benefit from reading Bhagavad Gita, however a great scholar he may be in the estimation of a layman. The Shardhana or the faithful devotee can actually derive all the benefits of Bhagavad Gita because by the omnipotency of the Lord, he achieves the transcendental bliss which vanquishes attachment and nullifies all concomitant material miseries. Only the devotee by his factual experience can understand the import of this verse spoken by Vidura. The pure devotee of the Lord enjoys life by constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord by hearing Krishna Katha. For such a devotee, there is no such thing as material resistance, and the much advertised bliss of Brahmananda is like a fig for the devotee who is in the midst of the transcendental ocean of bliss. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So sasradhana se vardhamana viraktim anyatra karoti pumsaha. So this particular Krishna Katha is so powerful that if constantly hears Krishna's topics, then one becomes indifferent to the rest of the other topics. Viraktim anyatra karoti pumsaha. And apart from that, what is the benefit? Hare padanu smriti nirvitasya. One has constant remembrance of the lotus feet of the Lord. Samasta dukha masurate. And in this way, complete sufferings of the person can be destroyed. So this is the solution, hearing Krishna Katha. So as I was asking you before, my dear matrimony, that people try to get rid of sufferings, but increase their sufferings. How their sufferings can be destroyed by hearing Krishna Katha? So that's why please speak Krishna Katha. Because by hearing Krishna Katha, one gets so much pleasure that one doesn't like to hear anything else. So especially after spending few years or some decades of Krishna consciousness, one gets a lot of taste for hearing Krishna Katha. So I still remember there was one very senior devotee from Middle Africa, actually, African country, Ganga Patitu, something like that. He was attending one of our Bhakti Vaibhava classes. It's very senior devotee, like a temple president and some RGB level devotee within the governing body. So when he was attending the class, he was sharing his realization. He says this cancer, he was suffering from cancer, and he was admitted in Bhakti hospital in Mumbai. So he was saying, when I hear Krishna Katha, then somehow this pain goes away. I don't remember this pain. And as soon as Krishna Katha ends, pain comes back. So in this way, even on a physical level, Krishna Katha removes all the misery. Now please read 14th translation. Hare Krishna. Who's going to speak next?
O sage, person who because of their sinful activities are averse to the topics of transcendence and thus ignorant of the purpose of the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, are pitied by the pitiable. I also pity them because I see how their duration of life is spoiled by eternal time while they involve themselves in presentation of philosophical speculation, theoretical ultimate goals of life and different modes of ritual.
Yeah. Tan Sochan Avido Anu Soche. They're pitied by the pitied. So people who think or who are averse to hearing Krishna Katha, they're most pitied. Why? Because they are searching for happiness on the wrong place. And when the right thing is coming in front of them, they want to get rid of that right thing and want to search it in some wrong place. That is why such people are pitied by the pitied, because they don't know that the actual happiness will come by hearing Krishna Katha only. There's no other way. There's no other process. And further he continues. 15. This is also famous verse. You can repeat after me. Everyone just repeat that verse. Tadasya kausharavasarmadatur
Tadasya kausharavasharmadatur
Hari kathameva katha susaram
Hare
Kathameva Katha Susaram
Katha
Udritta puspeva ivata bandho
Udritya pushpebhya ivata bandho
Shivaya na kirtaya tirtha kirte
Shivaya Nagirtaya Tirtha Kirtaya.
Please read the translation and the purport.
O Maitreya, O friend of the distressed, the glories of the Supreme Lord can alone do good for people all over the world. Therefore, just as bees collect honey from flowers, kindly describe the essence of all topics, the topic of the Lord. Purport. There are many topics for different persons in different modes of material nature, but the essential topics are those in relationship with the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, materially affected conditioned souls are all more or less averse to topics of the Supreme Lord because some of them do not believe in the existence of God and some of them believe only in the impersonal feature of the Lord. In both cases, there is nothing for them to say of God. Both the non-believers and the impersonalists deny the essence of all topics. Therefore, they engage in topics of relativity in various ways, either in sense gratification or in mental speculation. For the pure devotees like Vidura, the topics of both the mundaners and the mental speculators are useless in all respects. Thus, Vidura requested Maitreya to talk of the essence only, the talks of Krishna and nothing else.
Uddatta puspebe ivarta bandho Shivaya na kirtati. So this Hari Katha is Katham eva Katha Susaram. It is the essence of all talks. So there may be essence of all talks which are given Vedas, and the essence of Vedas is Krishna Katha. So like a bee searches for the nectar in the flower. So bee doesn't search for other parts of the flower, which may look very beautiful, pregnant, etc. It searches for the honey. This is, I also want to taste that honey of Krishna Katha. So please don't describe any other topic, just describe Krishna Katha, that's all, nothing else. Now Krishna Katha is also Katha of the Lord in relationship with this world. And he begins to inquire about it in text 16. So please read the translation text 16.
Kindly chant all those superhuman transcendental activities of the Supreme Controller, the personality of Godhead, who accepted incarnations fully equipped with all potency for the full manifestation and maintenance of the cosmic creation.
Please tell me the description or how Garudaksha, Karnadaksha, and Chirudaksha, which one they create this world. Now, why this is very important for the devotees, and the reason I'm speaking about it is that sometimes devotees feel it very boring and they think that, Hare Prabhu, what is need of hearing all these technical things? So we should hear about Sri Vishnu for a very important reason. The reason is the same, Chatusloki Bhagavatam. Rite artham et pratiyeta na pratiyeta atmani. My dear Brahma, if you see that something is valuable but is not connected to me, then that vidyat atmano mayam. Understand this is my maya. Yatha vasu yatha maya. Like there is a illusion in the darkness. So everything is connected to Krishna. And by hearing about creation repeatedly, we get a sense that how each one of us is situated within this lotus, which is a part of Garudaksha Vishnu. Our whole body is made up of 24 elements, which is made up from the lotus made by Garudaksha Vishnu. That is his creation. And we are also part and parcel of Krishna. We are also energy of Krishna. So if we remain aware of it all the times, we will remain Krishna conscious all the times. And if we are Krishna conscious at all the times, even we may be dealing with matter unlimitedly, we can remain Krishna conscious at all the times. So that is the formula. And that is the reason this creation thing would come at so many places. It came in Bhagavad Gita. Even in the middle 6 chapters, Prabhupada writes in the purport, etc. Krishna speaks about Bhumira Panalo Vayu Khamano Mudare Chankarami Bina Pagdiyasada. And then it came in 2nd canto, again it is coming in the 3rd canto. Again it will come in elaboration in the 11th canto again. And in between cantos also many places, pray by the meaning of prayers, these things are spoken. And why they are spoken repeatedly? Because if we hear them repeatedly, we can be aware of the fact of this fact all the times that we are with Krishna, whether we recognize it or don't recognize it. But we'll start recognizing it if we'll work a little harder to attentively hear this topic. So that's why now Sukdev Goswami will speak about how Maitresi expresses gratitude for getting an opportunity to speak Krishna Katha. Yes, so please read 17, 18, 19. Translation.
Sukdev Goswami said, the great sage Maitreya Muni, after honoring Vidura very greatly, began to speak at Vidura's request for the greatest welfare of the world. Text stating translation. Shri Maitreya said, O Vidura, all glories unto you. You have inquired me of the greatest of all goodness, and thus you have shown your mercy both to the world and to me, and because your mind is always absorbed in my thoughts of transcendence. Text 19. O Vidura, it is not that all wonderful that you have so accepted the Lord without deviation of thought, for you were born from the semen of Vyasadeva.
So Maitreya starts glorifying Vidura for getting opportunity to hear Krishna Katha. He says, just to show mercy to everyone, and you want to hear Krishna Katha and spread the glory of the Lord, you are asking all these questions. Because you are already absorbed in Krishna. You don't have to hear all these topics. And it's not very surprising that you are son of Vyasadeva, because he's son of Vyasadeva and that maid servant. And you are endowed with pure bhakti, because you have met our Lord directly. You are a great devotee of the Lord. And what to say of that? You were Yamraj, who is punisher of all living beings. But because of the curse of Mando Rishi, you had to appear from the womb of the servant of Vichitravirya. Okay. So you are not read 20th, na? No, 17, 18, 19 only we have read. Yeah, so this will come in 20 exam. Okay, so please read 20 and 21, then I'll speak about it.
I know that you are now Vidur due to the cursing of Mandavya Muni, and that formerly you were King Yamraj, the great controller of living entities after their death. You were begotten by the son of Satyavati, Vyasadev, in the kept wife of his brother. Your good self is one of the eternal associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whose sake the Lord, while going back to his abode, left instructions with me.
So then he says, I know that you are not ordinary person, you are Yamraj himself, you are a great Mahajan. Dharmasya tattam etam gohayam mahajena yadgata sapanta. Swayam Shambhu Narad Shambhu Kumar Kapilo Manu Pralado Janako Bhishmo Balir Vaisaki Vayam. So he's among the 12 Mahajanas who knows the tattva of dharma properly. Very few people know dharma because dharma is like so difficult to understand. But he is Dharmaraj, so he knows about dharma. So he says, we know that you are Dharmaraj or Yamraj. But then what had happened is this Mandava Muni was caught by a king mistakenly. Some thieves had done some thievery, and Mandava Muni happened to be there. And nowadays, you may find that, okay, brahmacharis are wearing dhoti kurta and other men are wearing pant shirt, so you can still identify. But in Vedic culture, even thieves are wearing dhoti kurta. Same clothes. So then he was just caught. And then king had ordered him also to be thrown in Changa. So he was actually thrown on Changa. But because he was a great rishi, he could balance himself on that raised swords by his yogic powers. And of course, a lot of details are there. Then one leper comes carried by his wife, who was going to meet one prostitute, and he wrongly hit the legs of Mandava Muni. And Mandava Muni got pain and he cursed him also. And later on, king recognized this Mandava Muni is a great saint. So then he freed him. But after his departure, Mandava Muni told Yamraj, he told, why was I punished so badly? I had not done anything as far as I remember. So then Yamraj said that when you are small, then you pierced an ant with a blade of grass. So he said, I was too small to be punished. So you have done a mistake. So I curse you to become the son of a maidservant. And Yamraj said, thank you very much. I was fed up doing all these activities of sending this fellow to hell, that fellow to hell. Boil him like a puri, cut him like a sabji, not doing all these activities. I'm tired. So this was a thankless task I was doing till now. Now I have opportunity to absorb myself in Krishna Katha. But when he appeared again, same thing happened. He was there in the court along with his blind brother, who was blind both by eyes and with his intelligence. And when Duryodhan cursed him, then he said, very nice. Now at least I'm free now. Now I'll go out, go to visit different holy places and just absorb myself in Krishna Katha. So that is how Vidura was previously Yamraj. Okay. And now we will directly come to the core topic of this chapter, that is creation. Yeah, please show the chart. We'll just first explain the chart. Yeah. Yes. Now devotees can be very attentive. If you're inattentive for some time, you lose everything. So as we know, Krishna expands into Balram, Balram expands into first Chaturviva, Sankarsan of that Chaturvyuha, who is called Mool Sankarsan, expands as all Narayan forms in the spiritual world. And then the expansion comes of second Chaturvyuha, in which the Sankarsan is called Mahasankarsan. Mahasankarsan expands as Karnotaksai Vishnu in this material world. This material world is like a cloud in the spiritual sky. It's like a black cloud. And Karnotaksai Vishnu enters here and it diffuses away the darkness or removes the darkness by his Brahmajyoti. And on his body lies eternal material nature. This eternal material nature is called Pradhan. So you have to remember it. It's called Pradhan. So Pradhan is the eternal unmanifest material nature. Unmanifest means you cannot see it, touch it, think about it, or know about it. Why? Because in Pradhan, three modes of material nature are there in balance. There is no mode of passion, excess of mode of passion, so there is no creation. And when there is no creation, there is no question of maintenance in goodness. Goodness gives maintenance. And there is no creation, there is nothing to destroy. So there is no ignorance. So all three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are in balance. That is like a kitchen which is locked and there's no activity going on. So no activity goes on there. And then Mahavishnu or Karnodaksha Vishnu, he glances on that material nature and impregnates material nature with Kal and Jiva. So Kal is Mahakal or Lord Shiva, who is time factor. And Jivas are the living entities who were waiting to get gross and subtle bodies for the purpose of enjoying sense gratification. So all these jivas are controlled by Kal, time factor. So in material world, unlike spiritual world, time moves in only one direction. Thing which is gone is called past. Time when we are living is called present. And time which is going to come is called future. So it's unidirectional. We can't bring back time, whole time. It's not possible. In spiritual world, you can bring it back. The difference between material world and spiritual world. So time factor controls living entities in this world. Time factor assists in Krishna's pastimes in the spiritual world. That means you can have day, night, whatever, whenever you want for Krishna service. So in this way, Kal, who is also called Mahakal, is Lord Shiva. So along with Lord Shiva, who is impregnated, Jivas are impregnated. So that vision is called Lord Shiva or Sambhu Tattva. So Mahavishnu has 60 qualities and Kal or Mahakal, Lord Shiva, has 55 qualities. Whom he touches, Pradhan. Who is Pradhan? He is also called Parvati or Uma. And that is the reason sometimes Lord Shiva and Parvati are called eternal mother and father of all the living entities. Because Lord Shiva carries all the living entities from Mahavishnu or Karnodaksha Vishnu to Pradhan or material nature. So material nature becomes mother, Jivas are the children, and Kal or Mahakal is called the father. So that is how living entities are impregnated. And when husband touches the wife, Kal touches Pradhan, then she becomes agitated, which is signified by agitation of three modes of material nature. Sattva-guna, Rajaguna, Tamaguna. So agitated pradhan is called Mahatattva. Unagitated material nature is called pradhan. Agitated material nature is called Mahatattva. So I hope that's clear. So this Mahatattva, because it's agitated, some portion of Mahatattva will have Sattva-guna in prominence. Some of them will have Rajaguna in prominence, and some of them will have Tamaguna in prominence. So, Mother, can you scroll it little down the chart? Yes, thank you. So, the portion in which Sattva-guna is prominent is sometimes called also Buddhi Tattva. The portion in which Rajaguna is prominent is called Sutra Tattva. And the portion in which Tamaguna is prominent is called Ahankar Tattva. So in this way, different places, different modes are prominent. And as we read in Bhagavad Gita, when mode of goodness is prominent, mode of passion, ignorance goes down. When mode of passion is prominent, mode of ignorance and mode of goodness goes down. And when mode of ignorance increases, automatically mode of goodness and mode of passion goes down. So the portion in which Rajaguna is prominent, Sutra Tattva, it contributes by giving an element called Chitta. Chitta. So that we will read further when we go proceed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapil Dev Siksha. And Ahankar in prominence, Mahatattva in prominence is called Ahankar. Now within Ahankar also there will be portions which are having more goodness, more passion, more ignorance. It's like saying animals are in mode of ignorance. Now among animals, there are animals in goodness, animals in passion, and animals in ignorance. What are animals in goodness? Somebody can answer.
Like cow. Cow.
Cow and elephant. They are considered to be, or especially cows. Which is animal in mode of passion?
Tiger.
Yeah, lion, tiger. They are in mode of passion. Which are animals in ignorance?
Dog.
Dog, pig, buffalo. Like when cows and buffaloes are moving, they look similar. But I have personally seen if you blow the horn, cows respond immediately, buffaloes don't respond. That's why in Hindi they say now, bhais ke aange bean bajana. No. You blow an instrument in front of buffalo, no use. So they're in ignorance. So similarly, some portion of ahankar and goodness is prominent, some places passion is prominent, some places ignorance is prominent. But each of these steps are happening only because Mahavishnu is glancing. That's important. Now, portions where ahankar is prominent, mode of goodness is prominent, those portions of ahankar, they further generate other elements. So it's like opening of a flower. So that generates karta. Karta bhav means basically doers and mentality. Who has done that? I have done that. So that's karta bhav, or that doers and mentality. From that comes Gyan Shakti, the knowledge of being aware or power of being aware, Gyan Shakti. Further from that comes Adidev, which I'll describe gradually. And I'll stop here only. Yeah. Then from Ahankar comes mode of passion. Ahankar, which has mode of passion in prominence, comes Karana. Karana means cause. Now, what is cause and what is kar called effect? I'll give one example for that. Like for example, moving of my vocal cord is karan, cause. Sound coming out of mouth, my mouth is kar, effect. Because vocal cord is moving in my mouth, the sound is being produced in from my mouth. Now what happens is, after some time, sound from my mouth becomes karan or cause, and the effect is that it enters in my microphone. And then because it enters, then entering of the sound in the microphone becomes the cause, and the effect is that it is coming out of your speaker. That is the cause. Then the sound coming out of the speaker becomes the cause, and sound entering in your ear becomes the effect. Then sound entering in your ear becomes the cause, and your understanding becomes the effect. So that is how all things in this world are done through the chain of cause and effect. But Sarva Karana Karanam is Krishna, and the ultimate effect is also Krishna in the form of material energy. So there is the Karan and Kar, and along with Karan comes Kriya Sakti. Kriya Sakti means energy to do. That's called Kriya Sakti. And from there comes Adhyatma, which I'll explain little gradually. From ignorance comes Kar, as I told before, effect. And comes Dravya Sakti. Dravya Sakti means basically the ingredients, gross ingredients. So that's called Dravya. Dravya means ingredients, so gross ingredients. And from that comes Adibhut. Now further I'll explain about this Adi, Dev, Adhyatma, Adibhut. Before that, if somebody has a question, they can ask. Because I don't want to proceed unless until you understand.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji. I have a question.
Yes.
Prabhuji, we read in second canto that Kal comes after Pradhan is there to activate Mahatattva. And here you have mentioned that the Kal is coming along with Jivas to create Pradhan.
No. It's not coming to create. It is touching Pradhan. I never spoke that it's coming to create. It's touching Pradhan. Kal and Jiva. Touching Pradhan.
It is not working right now.
Pradhan is not working right now. So when it touches, it starts working. Okay. So Pradhan is eternal. It remains throughout the whole night of Brahma. Sorry, whole night of, I won't say whole night. It's lies after inhalation and till the exhalation of Mahavishnu. So for such a long time, Pradhan remains. So material nature becomes manifest or unmanifest, but material nature doesn't die. It is eternal. Okay.
But what happens when Brahma sleeps and then gets up?
No, that is other time. That time there is a pralaya only till Swargaloka, not beyond. That time entire even universe is there. What to say of other things?
And what about the Jivas?
Jivas at that time, they sleep on the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
Okay, thank you.
And during this time, they are sleeping on the body of Karnadaksha Vishnu. And they come out along with a glance of Karnadaksha Vishnu, which is composed of Kal. Okay. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So we'll go further. If there's some other question, then we can ask. Okay. Fine. See, there are no other question because already you read in the second canto. Now, other three things come is Adidev, Adhyatma, and Adibhut. all interactions are done by these three things: Adhyatma, Adibhut, and Adidev. For example, Adhyatma means some things which I have. Like, for example, I have I. I is called Adhyatma. Adibhut is the thing which I'm seeing. Let us say currently I'm seeing a laptop made up of 5 metal elements. And I can see only if the sanctioning authority of seeing allows it. Who is he? That is Suryadev. He's called Adidev. So by the interaction of Adhyatma, Adibhut, and Adidev, the process of seeing becomes complete. Same thing is true with the ears also. My ears will be called the Adhyatma. The sound will be called Adibhut. And the sanctioning authorities are Dig Devatas, Devatas of directions. They are called Adidev. When all three, when they sanction, he sanctions, sound is there to hear, and my ears are there. Only then I can hear. Any of them are missing, process is not complete. Ear is not there, I can't hear. Ear is there, but there's no sound, I can't hear. If sound is there, ear is there, but sanctioning authority doesn't sanction, I can't hear. So all three are required. So that's Adidev, Adhyatma, and Adibhut. Now from Adidev comes mind, 10 sense devatas. So mind is, that's why I call it mode of goodness. If mind is in mode of goodness, it becomes one's friend. It is controlled. Also 10 sense devata, for each senses there are demigods, as I told. For eye there is Suryadev. For speech there is Agni. For taste there is Varun Dev. We have a chart below, so that also later on. So these 10 sense devatas are there. Now from Adhyatma, further comes Pran, 10 senses, and intelligence. What is Pran? Pran is basically the life air, or life, you can say in one sense. So that's called Pran. 10 senses means 5 karmendriyas, 5 gyanendriyas, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 working senses. And you have gone through second canto, so I'll not explain them further. And then there is intelligence. We know about intelligence. Yes, 8 functions. We learn about them gradually. And from Adibhut comes 5 elements, that is earth, water, fire, air, ether, and 5 tanmatras. Tanmatras are sense objects. Ras, Roop, Gandh, Shabd, Sparsh. For tasting there is Ras. For seeing there is Roop. For smelling there is Gandh. For hearing there is Shabd. And for touching there is Sparsha. So Gandh is taken through nose. Roop is seen through eyes. Shabd is heard from ears. Ras is tasted from tongue. And Sparsh is done from skin. Touch is done from skin. So these 5 tanmatras are there. Yes. Please go further down. Yeah. So no, not for so much down. You can show me the small charts. Yeah. So these are 10 senses and 10 sense devatas. For ears, there is Dig Devata. For eyes, there is Surya Devata. For skin, there is Vayu Devata. For nose, there is Ashwini Kumaras. For tongue, there is Varun Devata. For hands, there is Indra. For feet, there is Upendra. For voice, there is Agni. For anus, there is Mitra. For genital, there is Prajapati. And left hand side, if you see in the, sorry, now if you go towards right, there are first 5 elements: sun, touch, form, taste, smell are called tanmatras. And ether, air, fire, water, earth is called the elements, 5 elements. Which come from interaction of ahankar with mode of ignorance. Now from sound comes ether, from ether comes touch, touch comes air, air comes form, from form comes fire, fire comes taste, taste comes water, water comes smell, and from smell comes earth. And the later ones have the features of the previous ones. So that is how they come. Yes, Anand Leela Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, true. If you scroll little bit up, the 10 senses, yeah, from here, it's there in both. It's the same 10 senses. It which is in Adidev and Adhyatma. Yeah.
Yeah. So these 10 senses are there in part of Adhyatma only. Adhyatma expands. It's like flower expanding into, bud expanding into flower. So suddenly from Adhyatma only these things come.
And then it is part of the Adidev also, like from this chart, what it says. Yeah.
No, no, no. It's not. It's like Adi Dev are the devatas who are in charges of these 10 senses. Like for example,
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, I got it.
you understood, na?
Yeah.
So these devatas are the in charges. It's like I am kitchen in charge. Doesn't mean I am kitchen. So I'm in charge of the kitchen. Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Amarinda Haripu.
Prabhuji, in the Devatas list, here the name of Upendra. Upendra is the same Vaman Dev Bhagavan.
No, 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 no. He's not Vaman Dev. So Chakravarti was very clear that this Upendra is not Vaman Dev. There's another demigod called Upendra. And we'll find that this Upendra, all these demigods are even before the creation of Brahma. Brahma is not created till now. So all these elemental devatas, they stay with Mahavishnu. And this set governs all the elements in all the universes. It's like home ministry is there in central government and home ministry is there in state government. But home ministry and state government is under the home ministry of central government. So this Upendra is a demigod who stays with Mahavishnu. So does that answer your question?
Okay, Prabhuji, okay. So these are the demigods who are in central government before the creation of Brahma.
Yes, yes.
So Prabhuji, they exist eternally?
They exist till the entire creation is manifested. But when Mahavishnu breathes in, now if they're pure devotees, they will become unmanifest and manifest again. And if they are not pure devotees, they are in charges, then someone else will become elemental devata for next creation. Okay, does that answer your question? Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji, now.
Yes, Prabhu.
So you got your answer, Amarin Haripru, or I should repeat?
Okay, okay, Prabhuji, okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, 1 minute is remaining. Somebody has question, we can just stop the PPT now. Somebody has question they can ask. Else we'll end now. Hare Krishna. Fine. So since there are no questions, and even if devotees have questions, what they can do is, devotees can send me just through my WhatsApp. You can send me a voice message, and I can answer it. So generally, I answer on the same day or the next day, so I can just answer it. And you can ask in that tomorrow's class also. Okay, so it's already 1 o'clock now. So we'll end here. Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Gopad ki. Vanchakalpadruvascha kalpasindhescha Kathana Pamna Vaishnava.
And then should I close this?
Yes, please end the meeting for all.